What does Muhammad mean when he says, if anyone leaves his Islamic religion, kill him? He clearly means that if anyone wants to leave Islam, he's free to go. Miracle of reinterpretation.
Okay. 3, they have to be fit, hadiths have to be fit into a system. As I said before, they're just pieces of information. And with the example of, let's say, following around the President of the United States for a month or 2 months, you're going to get a lot of material. And if you don't know when he's speaking about one thing versus another thing, when he's speaking about something general, when he's speaking about something specific, when he's being sarcastic, when he's joking, you are going to come away with a lot of erroneous understandings or perceptions of what he's saying or she's saying. So hadiths are pieces of data, and it's a very big mistake. The biggest mistake one of the biggest mistakes Muslims make is to just listen to hadith and think that that's all there is to say about a particular issue. It's almost never all there is to say about a particular issue. It's a piece of data that fits into a bigger system, and that's the job of Muslim scholars. That's the whole job of Muslim scholars throughout history. Of course, they also calculate prayer times and do nikahs and things like that, but the job of a Muslim scholar is to try and figure out what God wants from us using this material. A great example of this is a hadith. It's a Sahih hadith in Sahih Bukhari and other books, where the Prophet says, "Umirtu an uqatil an-nas hatta yaqulu la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah wa yuqimu as-salah wa yu'tu az-zakah wa in fa'alu dhalik asama minni dima'ahum wa amwaluhum illa fi haqq al-Islam." What does that mean? The Prophet says, I have been commanded to fight the people until they say there is no God but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God, and they establish the prayer, and they pay zakat. If they do that, their blood and their property is inviolable to me, except as Islam might deem right or just. So this hadith seems to say pretty clearly, and you've probably seen this cited on some Islamophobic website or on Fox News or something, it seems to say the Prophet saying, I've been commanded to fight people until everybody becomes Muslim. That's basically what it says. But remember, these are just pieces of data. It is Sahih hadith. I mean, I've never seen anyone question the reliability of this hadith. But we know we can't just take it on its face. Why? Because the Quran, in Surah At-Tawbah, Surah number 9, tells us that those from among the people of the book, Muslims can fight them until they become Muslim or until they agree to pay the jizya. They don't have to become Muslim. And by the way, Muslims by the late 600s, early 700s, included everybody they met as people of the book. That includes Hindus, that includes Buddhists, that includes Zoroastrians. They treated them all in this way. If Muslims conquered them, they paid jizya, and they can continue to practice their religion freely. So we know this hadith has to be modified, at least in the sense that it doesn't apply to people of the book. What else? We know from the Prophet's precedent, ﷺ, that he didn't force people of the book to convert. When the Muslims conquered the city of Khaybar, with the Jewish town of Khaybar in the Hijaz, the Jewish population there was allowed to remain and practice Judaism. They just paid tax to the Muslims. The Muslims conquered the city of Najran in southern Arabia, which was all Christian at the time. They were allowed to practice their religion freely, and their priests and their bishops were not bothered at all. They just weren't allowed to do riba. They weren't allowed to do interest. But they lived under Muslim protection. They paid tax. So we know from the Prophet's precedent this isn't the case. And then finally, we look at other narrations of the hadith. For example, in Sunan Nasa'i, there's one version from Anas bin Malik, the companion Anas bin Malik, narrating this hadith, where he says, "Umirtu an uqatil al-mushrikeen حَتَّى يَقُولُوا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. What does that mean? I've been commanded to fight the polytheists until they say there's no God but God, Muhammad is prophet of God. That's actually the intended meaning. Because we know that the one group that was not allowed to retain their religion under Muslim rule was the polytheists of Arabia. This is very clear. It doesn't mean polytheists. It means the mushrikeen of the Central Arabian Peninsula. They were not allowed to retain their idolatry. They either became Muslim or they were fought. This doesn't apply to other polytheists. Let's say if you think that Hinduism is polytheist, because Muslims treated Hindus like people of the book. From their first encounter with them in 711 when Muslims conquered Sind, they treated them like people of the book. So it only applies to mushrikeen in Central Arabia. That's the only group that this hadith actually applies to. We know that from the Quran, we know that from the precedent of the Prophet, and we know that from other narrations of this hadith.